Hello, listeners of the Art Versations podcast.
My name is Hi. My name is Broadway Classic.
Let's hear it.
Welcome back to another episode of Art Versations, or welcome if this is your first time tuning in. How are you feeling? How is your motivation to create and or consume art right now? I really hope it's thriving and still existent. It's a weird time. My name is Bri, like the cheese, your host and lover of all things artistic. It's been a difficult year for art, but I hope that we can still talk about it and enjoy it. And I appreciate you tuning in and joining me on this journey. This week's Art Versation was with Michael Baboolal. He's a dancer, choreographer, and visual artist. And honestly, he has like the most unique body in the world. And I could say that because he's very well known for his tall and lengthened limbs. We sat down over Zoom and chatted about his current projects and what it's been like dancing in Marie Chouinard's company for the past year. Lots of laughs and just such an enjoyable moment to have with him. Please join us, grab a coloring book or start making dinner or continue on your morning commute. Wherever you are, here is episode 5 of season 3.
What the hell am I doing here? Like, you just kind of lay on the floor and you're like, all right, inspiration.
Please come, please come. Hi, Michael.
Hello, how's it going?
I got you like mid-sip, so sorry about that.
Totally fine.
How are you doing?
I'm good, hanging in there. I'm currently in Toronto. I have some appointments that I had to come back to, so here for the weekend and then head back out to work on Monday.
Good for you for coming and actually making those appointments.
Yeah, I mean,
self-care.
I didn't have any choice really in canceling them, so I'm here making it happen.
This is like probably like your only time off to like actually do it, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's great because with our company schedules, because COVID really messed with everything, we have a bit more flexibility in the way we work. So I have the ability to work on the weekend and get my 5 days in and take my days when I need to. But it's a nice time to have this time off.
So sorry, my phone just went off. Yeah, I think like you were telling me before that you come into the studio on your own time. Like it's not with the company. How is that like to be on your own?
For the first bit, it was really weird and bizarre. I think we kind of started back to work in July, and because I didn't have a place in Montreal yet, I was working from my home in Toronto. And that was kind of fine because we were working on a solo show called Time for Time, and I was kind of having online individual coaching with one of our rehearsal directors.
Okay.
But then when it got time for me to go to Montreal and be in the studio, it was weird because you're so used to having such strong presences in the room with you, and to just be in this huge studio by yourself. It's a bit overwhelming. You have a lot of like holdbacks. You feel like you're kind of being engulfed by the space a bit. So that was a whole new kind of avenue to rediscover and figure out how to work in the studio by yourself.
Yeah. A lot of discipline, I bet, eh? Like to like really like I'm sure you're probably there for a couple hours maybe or something like that.
Yeah, so our schedules, we work on 3-hour blocks. That way we all can kind of fit ourselves in a day. But we go in for 3 hours. We have pieces of rep or something. We all have something that we're rehearsing.
Okay.
So we go in, and it doesn't seem like a lot, 3 hours, but when you have it just to yourself, the way you navigate that time is so weird. So I'm taking it as like my first hour, I do my own practice, my own class for myself.
Cool.
And then after that, I go through whatever I need to. And yeah.
A lot of discipline. Yeah. Just to like be there for 3 hours on your own. Now, is it with the tasks you have to do? I'm sure is it curated by your rehearsal director? Like they give you something to do?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. Now that we're past our show time for time, that happened in September, we kind of have a bunch of different smaller projects going on.
Gotcha, okay.
So each of us have kind of a different workload or a weight to carry within the company. So it really just depends on each of us, and we kind of allot certain amounts of time for certain projects and certain things that we need to work on for ourselves. So my schedule, like while we still all have our 3-hour blocks, every person kind of uses their time differently. Yeah.
And I guess that's up to them kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of working with the company. We don't have a company class in the morning, which I think is a different structure from most companies.
Yeah, definitely.
But the beautiful thing about that is we all get to practice what we are very strong in, or what we want to practice in our own kind of bodies. So like some of us take Pilates classes, some of us take yoga classes, some of us do a ballet class. I'm not one of those people, but some people do. So we all have our different things that we do. And it's great because even though we don't have that class to bring us all together, once we're in that rehearsal space, you feel each other's kind of presence and their body and what they're bringing to the studio.
Oh, so because it's up to the dancer's discretion.
Yeah.
How they warm up, but then you guys come in, you're all these different energies. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. And I think it's really great because you're not expecting your dancers to conform to, this is how Marie works, and you have to work and practice like this. Like you can do a hip hop class in the morning if you want to and come in, and as long as you do the work and you do it to your body, it's there.
Yeah, I guess that is really different from most companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I didn't know that about Marie Chouinard. That's so awesome.
Yeah, neither did I really.
And you've been a member with them since December 2019, I believe, right?
Since January, actually.
Since January,
so
okay.
I had my audition in mid-November, and my contract started in January. So I finished up my work in Toronto and kind of had to become a real adult, find a place to live, figure out my whole rent situation, and moved to Montreal, learned how to fully cook for myself and all that jazz.
Adulting is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel for everyone who lived away from their homes during school now. I'm like, I understand what you went through.
Figuring that out, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's almost been like a year that you've been there with them. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a while. We definitely had a bit of a hiatus because of COVID. But it's been a time. It's definitely been the weirdest transition going from a freelance artist into this company world and navigating that, but it's been great. I have had a blast, and I think more recently I'm starting to kind of come into my own in the company and find out how I fit and how I work and what works, what doesn't. So it's been a lot of trial and a lot of errors.
Always is.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that you've been enjoying it. Yeah. It's so nice to hear about a Ryerson alum getting a contract and feeling like they have like a steady job. I love to hear that.
Yeah. Definitely didn't expect that for myself after graduating.
Yeah. Was Montreal kind of your plan, or did that just come with it as well?
So I kind of, when I graduated from Ryerson, I didn't think I was really going to be dancing.
Oh, no way. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I think at Ryerson, they churn out a specific type of dancer, like one who's very technically competent, like it's a full, well-rounded dancer, a full, well-rounded artist.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think graduating, I didn't fit that mold at all. And I was trying to be this Ryerson dancer that I knew I wasn't. So
Hmm.
after graduating, I really had to look at where I was in my body and figure out, okay, well, I'm not an extremely technical dancer, but what do I offer? And like, I'm a very musical dancer. I have a lot of rhythm, a lot of groove. I have
Mm-hmm.
a very unique way of moving. So it was kind of capitalizing on what I do well and figuring out how I make that work for other choreographers, other artists. Um, and then, people really advocated for me after I graduated.
Nice.
I worked pretty much full time as a freelance dancer, which is insane, but I somehow did. And it was some, I guess, from my merit, but a lot of it was people recommending me and being at the right place at the right time. And they're like, okay, well, you need a dancer. I know this person, like call
Mm.
Michael, let him know. And it kind of snowballed into what it is now. And
Hmm.
yeah,
The luck that, yeah, it is so much about like right place, right time.
yeah,
In most cases, I feel like, yeah. Yeah. And to have people like vouch for you is so wonderful, because I think if you build this great community of connections and people that you like want to work with, then it almost becomes like, obviously I would hire this person because I'd want
yeah,
to work with them, like instead of like I have to hire them or something like that, right? Like it just feels more genuine. That's
yeah.
wonderful.
So
Mm-hmm.
very thankful to all those people. And then beyond that, it was kind of being a nice person really gets you far, especially in the dance community.
Amen to that. Yes. Yes.
Like, it's not that people are assholes, but like,
Mhm. Yeah.
making the extra effort, putting that extra time in, going to see people's shows, going to take people's classes, or
Mm-hmm.
like even just messaging someone being like, hey, I'm really interested in what you do, not expecting anything, just like having that conversation. And people
Mm-hmm.
remember that stuff. Like, I didn't think that was gonna happen at all. I was like, oh, you're my dance crush. Hi. That was like the sense of my
So
conversation.
starstruck. Oh my gosh.
Every dancer in Toronto with me, I was like, you're so cool. I want to be
Seriously, me too, honestly. I'm starstruck with you right now. Truly. Oh goodness. Yeah, and then like with Montreal, I just found out about how there's a little bit of a lockdown going on over the
yeah.
next 28 days. And does that, like, I guess that doesn't really like affect how you guys train,
Yeah,
if
I
you're able to
think
be.
we in the company are very lucky because we have our own dedicated building. So we're
Right.
not renting space from anyone else. We know who comes in and comes out of our building. So it's on the dancers themselves and the production crew and all their technical people to really limit and be very conscious of who your social circles are and where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we are doing that, we're still in work.
That's great.
The hope is that we continue to be like that, and the 28-day lockdown is just that, and we don't go
Mm-hmm.
into full lockdown mode.
I know. And we just in Toronto now too have been are dealing with that
Yeah,
as well. So it's just like, I mean, it was bound to happen, I guess, with schools going back in.
mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of anti-maskers still in Toronto.
Montreal as
So
well.
yeah, well, I'm sure it's crazy. Like so weird for people to not actually like be a part of the community and say like, I need to like wear a mask, I need to social
Yeah,
distance. Like maybe it seems like people are, worried about their freedom or something, but like at the end of the day, like you're a part of,
it's not just you.
yeah, exactly. You can't
Yeah,
just think like that, like, oh, it's all about me. And yeah.
yeah. Which is interesting because as dancers, like I feel dances are like the arts is such a self-fulfilling career that for us to
Mm-hmm.
be like, it's not just about you, is
Right.
like, it's interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Definitely has changed, the way that traditional performances happen, or, a lot of them are happening
Yes.
outside now. Um, a lot of them are happening on grass versus like actual
Yeah.
marley floors, right? Like I was thinking about this the other day, like how in some ways like privileged I was to grow up in a studio space and to go to Ryerson with like these gorgeous studios and train there. And then now that's all been taken away. And I realize how expensive dance can be and how, you know, we need those like traditional ballet bar spaces with the mirror and everything.
Yeah.
But some people just don't have that access. Like, it's horrible. It made me really like wake up and realize that, I mean, really you can dance anywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
And it really introduces on like, not introduces, but it brings to light that not everyone trains that way. Like, you have street dancers who they learn on the street.
Right.
They learn in unconventional spaces. You have people who were rehearsing in Kerr Hall randomly.
Yes. Yep.
Is it a good space to rehearse in? No. Are you probably killing your like body? Yes. But
Shin splints.
you make do with what you have, and that's the reality for a lot of dancers. So
yeah,
we definitely were privileged with a lot of what we had at Ryerson.
Yeah. I think the more I see the world changing, the more I'm like actually opening my eyes up to what I need to do to be a part of it, and how dance can maybe help people feel free in their bodies and feel like they have, you know, the liberty and the freedom to move. And although we can't touch each other.
Soon.
Let me touch people. Consensually. I know, like, just not having that like tactile feeling is so weird. Or like partner improv, like, yeah. How are you finding it? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say it's something that I've been definitely yearning for the past 6 months.
Yeah,
to
I was
just
gonna
like
ask.
It's that connection that you don't have, especially now when you're almost all dance is solo work or very limited group work. It's definitely hard to work in that way. But sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, no, I actually like I was wondering like what that is, how that's affected in your body, like physically. Do you feel different, like not having other people to, sense and interact with? Like how's that been? What's your relationship with movement in general right now?
It's interesting because the work Marie does in the company is very semi-somatic. Like, it's really embodied. It's very nervous. So while you do work with other bodies, you're kind of working with yourself first and figuring out, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is the system I'm working in. And then implementing that with a different body. So I think having to make that transition of working with 10 of us in the company to just working in my own space by myself, it wasn't as hard because I knew everything kind of starts within yourself and then translates out.
Gotcha.
Or at least that's how I've approached the work. So that's been interesting, but also it's really great because it's given me time to actually build muscle in my body.
Cool.
And get stronger as a dancer without having to like force myself to do partnering and force myself to be put in positions where I'm not fully confident in my ability to do that. So it's a definitely blessing / hindrance in many ways.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess it gives you time to just look inward and focus on you.
Yeah.
Very important. Yeah. Totally.
But yeah, I've definitely enjoyed it. Do I want to work this way for the rest of my life? Hell no.
Yeah, I feel you.
But it's kind of just finding those moments of going to the studio and being like, all right, I, wasn't as strong in this before. What kind of training do I need for this to strengthen myself in this way? So that's been great. And of course, there are times where you go in the studio and it's like, well, what the hell am I doing here? Like, you just kind of lay on the floor and you're like, all right, inspiration.
Please come. Anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching like your, sometimes you post about, little grooves that you're having. I think that's really fun that you can you know, just improv and let your body move. Like even one of them, I have to call it out. The caption was so good. It was like, and on the eighth day, God created groove or something like that. I was dying at that because I know that feeling of just like, oh, like fully in the pocket, just like feeling the beat of the music or whatever it is. It's so juicy. It's so gooey.
Yeah. And it's something that I found, especially at my time in Ryerson, was very lost.
Mm.
And maybe that's just because like I love music. I love house music. I love something that drives beat and rhythm.
Right.
And at Ryerson, it was a lot of kind of the opposite of that. Kind of, you know, here's some music, just go through it on whatever you want to do with it. So it was actually the summer after I graduated where I was doing the Alias Dance Intensive, and they had this artist, Peter Jasko from Montreal, come in.
Ooh, okay.
He worked a lot with rhythm and groove, and it really informed the way that I work. And now my kind of personal practice is using rhythm and groove as impetus for movement, and how it really is like my baseline for movement and where I work from.
Cool.
So where other people work from their first position, I'm like, yeah, I'll work from whatever groove or rhythm or beat I'm feeling that day.
Right. No, yeah. The first position. Yeah. It's like sometimes it's a parallel first position, sometimes it's a turnout, sometimes it's a really turned
version.
No, I feel you. And yeah, groove like makes space for that, right? Like it doesn't have to be so structured. Yeah. I learned a lot about that through I did some classes in Gaga and like trained in New York with some Gaga teachers, and it was just like all of a sudden I felt so much more connected to music, like you say, like it lives inside of you. You almost don't have to find it. It's just there.
Yeah. And it's in those moments that I find that kind of euphoric sense of dance, like the reason that I started when I did. Because like I didn't have that foundation that most people do when they start like go into more professional sense of dance. So for me, my foundation was rhythm and groove. And yeah, it was really great after going through a whole 4-year program to kind of get back to that. And then using what I had already from my training and being like, all right, well, let's do it. Let's put it all together.
Yeah, you're Hannah Montana, best of both worlds. There you
go.
Yeah, you can pull from either side. That I think that, you know, that makes you such a well-rounded dancer. And I always wanted that for myself too, like the technique, but also the artistry and the you know, the sense of play and just movement.
And the sense of play is important. Like having fun in dance is important. It shouldn't always be very meta and very You can dance to your feeling of waking up in the morning and dance with a pillow if you really wanted to and make that a piece. Like, fucking do it.
Yeah. I think I literally have done that. Actually, my first year solo at Ryerson was with a pillow. It's so funny that you bring that up. I'm going to do that tomorrow morning when I wake up. I'm just going to grab my pillow and just feel it out. Now, I do want to bring up the fact that Radical Vitality, one of the, you know, last performances that Marie did was my last like show that I saw. And like, I didn't realize it at the time, but like, I'm so grateful for that show and to see you in it and Celeste as well, a friend of mine. It was so cool.
It's a very interesting show. It was my first show that I watched of the company.
Cool.
Actually, the only show I watched of the company before I auditioned. They were here, I guess, 3 years ago or 4 years ago for Fall for Dance.
Okay.
And they did an abbreviated version of Radical Vitality. And it was incredible. It was quirky. It was funny. It was so weird.
Quirky. Yeah.
It was everything that like I loved about dance, even if it wasn't really dance, in a piece. And yeah, I remember finishing that show and I was like, that was fucking weird. I would never work for that company.
So fucking weird.
I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Let's do it.
That's the thing that introduced you to Marie. That's so funny.
Oh,
Just
man.
like, the craziest duets and solos. And also like a really cool use of film and
Yeah.
with, the camera movement that they had on stage, which I think right now is super important because so many things are now turning into films that would be live performances. Yeah.
So her brain is, I can't even begin to understand how she thinks and how she even begins a process. She's batshit insane, but in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
She's a lunatic, and I love it.
That's what makes the company so special.
Right? We're all
so
just a bunch of weirdos in the company.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Scott McCabe too. I should mention. He's so weird and just
He's insane.
Craziest cast of people in that show. It was so. I literally. I'm just so grateful that I got to see it because it was the last thing I'm probably going to see for a while.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting show to be a part of. I think watching it and being backstage of it and being in it, it's like, it's intense because you're going from like really physical pieces to wearing baby heads and pretending to be a baby on stage with all the genitalia flailing around.
Let it out. Be free. Yes, exactly.
So it's definitely like, for some people, they would go from piece where they were at a 10 or a 20, and then they get off and they have maybe 3 minutes to go from that 20 to 3, and then come back on and do that thing. And it's absolutely insane.
I can't imagine how much like you have to rev yourself up and then you have to like calm yourself down. Yeah. That's hard. That's difficult work.
It is.
Yeah.
It's definitely slowly becoming, I want to say, second nature.
Cool.
But fuck. I was not prepared for that when I started in the company. I was like, all right, everything's always at 100. And it's like, nope. Go from 100 to 1 to 300 to 75. Yeah.
Jumping around. Gosh, yeah. Yeah, it was really, really cool. And I hope that maybe it gets remounted again in some way, maybe outside in a different way or something. Yeah. Yeah. And I was looking on the website. So you did Time After Time, Time in Time, you said it was called?
Yeah, Time for Time.
Time for Time. So sorry.
Oh, no, totally fine. It's a variation of another piece that Marie has done, which is called In Museum. It was originally created as a solo for her. And it was similar to an installation piece. It also actually was in Radical Vitality. I don't know if you were there at the beginning.
Yes.
But everyone who was on the mats and people were sharing a wish or your deepest desire. And we would kind of dance it into existence.
Cool.
And it was based off the Greek mythology of Pythia, I believe her name was. And she was just this prophet who did the same thing. She would kind of take your wishes or desires and put them out into the universe. That was probably one of my favorite pieces I've ever done in my career as a dancer.
Yeah.
And not because it was physically demanding or because it was virtuosic, but having those connections with other people and having people tell you what their deepest desires are, it's a very receptive place to be. And it was amazing to kind of see that intimacy in people's eyes, even if it was through a camera, but the way that they just divulged and had like a word vomit of, this is what I want, this is what I feel.
Wow.
So there are moments where I wanted to cry. There are moments that I did cry. My sister surprised me while I was doing that show. And
oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
I bawled. But Yeah, it's an amazing, beautiful piece. And I think we all get to interpret it in our own ways. So it was kind of the first time that I saw everyone in the company dance in how they want to dance and how they interpret movement. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
amazing, amazing
You get to
experience
learn
with that.
so much about a person that you don't even know, I
Yeah,
guess, right?
in a
Yeah.
5-minute time frame, and then you never see them again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very anonymous, but so like beautiful and special.
Yeah. And just to like see them in their space and where they feel comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah. And there are moments where you're dancing, but you're also looking at the camera and looking at the screen, and the moments where it would flash to their face, and you would just see the sincerity in their face. And sometimes it was happiness, sometimes it looked like they wanted to cry, sometimes they were confused, but it was just those genuine emotions that happened in real time. It was beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember being like at the Bluma Appel like lobby, and so that was kind of what it is, like the one
Yeah.
person in space. Okay, wow, because that was like also a really great pre-show. Like whoever decided that that was going to be before Radical, I was like, that's great. That's a great way to just open people up, almost like loosen up a little bit before
Yeah.
this like crazy show that we're about to see, you know? So that's cool. So now it's become its own thing. Wow.
It's become its own thing. You know, we've adopted it for internet use.
Cool.
The costumes changed. We had these beautiful kind of chiffon like costumes that just complemented the body so well. And for me,
Nice.
like as a tall, substantially skinny dancer, not many costumes complement my body well. But this one, I was like, ooh, I am a Greek god. Yes.
Yes. I'm so glad. Yes. Your body is
Yeah,
quite
it was-
unique. It really
yeah.
is. If I can say that, I don't want to make you uncomfortable in any way,
Go for
but
it.
it's really cool.
Yeah, it was everything and more. And now I can't wait for once this phase in the pandemic passes and we can do this in real life with people in front of us. Yeah,
That'd make a world of difference. Yeah, to be in the
it
space.
would.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's great. So let's segue a bit into what you recently just worked on, a solo for Dusk Dances.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool. Tell me about it.
I was approached by Sylvie Bouchard, who is the artistic director of Bouchard Danse and who kind of is head person of Dusk Dances. I was a part of Dusk Dances in their 2019 season.
Oh, cool. Which I think was like their 25th year or something, right?
Yeah, it was.
Crazy.
But
awesome.
I was a part of that, and I had a very good connection with Sylvie. So she messaged me and she was like, hey, I'm looking for another solo to add to our programming. We got commissioned by Canadian Stage.
Right, yes.
Can you do a solo? And originally it was supposed to be for me to perform a solo. And I was like, hey, unfortunately, like I'm in Montreal, I can't do this. But I was really itching to create. And I was like, could I possibly choreograph a solo or duet? And she was like, all right, let me pitch it to Canadian Stage. They liked the idea. She liked the idea. She like had no idea of what I was doing. She was like, all right, go for it.
Oh, cool.
So I choreographed a solo on Sarah Diorio. It was called Ephemeral. And I didn't want to make it about COVID because I feel like there is already so much art speaking to that. And I didn't, not that I didn't care to make art in regards to it. I just didn't feel the need to.
Yeah. I get that.
So I was just wanted to do something simple, something beautiful, something physical. And I was like, hey, Sarah, this is what I have in mind. I want to explore a piece that looks into the who, what, where, why, when, and how, all those questions and the weight they carry in day-to-day life. So I had a week, 7 days to choreograph.
7 days?
7 days to choreograph a 5-minute solo.
And you told me it was like over Zoom that you did rehearsals, right?
It was all over Zoom.
Like, God, are you crazy?
Oh God. It was amazing because originally I wanted to do this as a duet, but the second person I asked was not available. So did it as a solo. And I was so glad I worked with Sarah because one, she's a beautiful dancer, but also we've worked together so much that I knew in such a small time frame, I had to work with someone who knows how I work, who knows what I'm talking about, and who can just kind of not do what I ask, but like who gets it, who gets how I work, who gets how I choreograph.
You have that trust.
Yeah. And I trusted her fully. She jumped right in and we created this beautiful physical solo. We incorporated text because that's a lot of what I do now. I work a lot with the voice and text, and it's where I feel very comfortable and where I feel very confident in. So I was like, this is going to be like physically challenging for you, but also I want to like push you a bit. So, let's use your voice a bit. Dancers don't get to do that a whole lot. No. And when they do, I think it becomes this word vomit of just like really high intensity vocal work. And it doesn't have to be like that. Like naturally we can use our intonation, and like using the voice I find is similar to, it's a choreography of the mouth is all it is really.
Yeah. Or the larynx or whatever that muscle that Sam Booker told me about. Yeah.
But it's just figuring out how to be as articulate with your body as you are with your voice. Opposite way around. With your voice as you are with your body.
Yep. Got you.
But yeah, I choreographed that solo in 7 days, and she performed it in High Park on this beautiful 36 by 36 foot stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was surrounded by trees. It was gorgeous. I had Andrew Nestorzio as my costume designer.
Oh, love Andrew. Yeah.
I was beyond impressed because I gave him a week and I was like, hey, I don't know if you can do this, but let's see.
He's really great about just like taking on projects and making it work.
He delivered and then more.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're insane. I love you.
Yeah.
But it was such an amazing process, and I'm really sad that I wasn't there to see it physically. It also wasn't videotaped, the actual show of it. But it got allegedly, according to Sarah Diorio, it got a standing ovation. So I will take that.
Yes, take it. Yes.
But yeah, it was such an amazing time. Everyone I worked with Dusk Dances and with Canadian Stage was so professional, and I felt like I had to match that. So I was constantly in fear of just being like, is this solo even good enough? Is it like going to be physical enough? Is it going to be family friendly enough? Because Dusk Dances is a family friendly show. You don't put works about sex and sexuality in that show because, it's for people who just aren't as exposed to dance. So I was like, you know what, let's do something kind of showy. Let's do something fun. Let's, just dance because we haven't danced for 6 months. So I was very, very thankful for that experience. And it was hard. Doing rehearsals on Zoom is hard.
Yeah. It's the worst.
Yeah.
It really sucks. Like, it actually is just like, there's such a barrier put up between the people in the room or in the Zoom call. And it's like,
I was watching Night Shift, the premiere, and I was watching Natasha's solo that she did with Roderick.
Right.
And during the Q&A portion, they were talking about rehearsals on Zoom and how it's so hard because you're working on such a two-dimensional plane. And I realized that towards the end of our process, the end of our 7-day process, I realized that like it's friggin' hard to choreograph for a 36 by 36 stage when you're only seeing the front part of it. And the biggest challenge was not keeping it so frontal and to use all the space because it's a massive space.
Where was Sarah? Was she just like in her house or did she have a space?
Canadian Stage generously gave us space to rehearse in.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
she was able to come downtown every day for 3 hours, and I killed her. But she made it
Murdered.
through.
Over Zoom.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I think we really used our time really effectively. I didn't feel the need. And even still, like, as a professional dancer, I don't ever feel the need that I need to kill myself for dance, especially in rehearsals. I will never put myself in a position where, like, we're doing a physical piece, I'm going to do it 300 times until I get it right. I'll give it 3 solid full out attempts, and then after that, work on what I need to. So I tried to do that with this rehearsal, and I think it worked out really well.
Nice.
And I hope the piece gets picked up again, and I would love to continue working on it, preferably in person, but even if it's on Zoom, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks that it wasn't filmed. Yeah, I'd love to see it, but
yeah,
maybe another time. Maybe you'll remount it. Yeah. different space, maybe. Hopefully, in the theater.
It was a great first professional choreographic debut. So
cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yay. Yeah, I'm sure Sarah like absolutely murdered it. She's so great.
Yeah.
Also, you were in a film by Hit and Run Dance Productions.
Yes.
With Jennifer Nichols and Anissa. That's Tejpar. I'm gonna butcher her name, but yeah, Apart. That makes so much more sense right now, like to be apart. And as I was watching it, I love that you were all able to fit on that like little street and still like be with each other. And it's on Vimeo too. I think people can check it out, right? Yeah.
On Vimeo, I'm pretty sure it's on both of their Instagrams, plus the Hit and Run Instagram, on Facebook somewhere, definitely. But Anissa and Jen have been, again, two of the most can't find the word, but what is word?
It'll come.
Advocates for me.
Yes.
They have been 2 really big advocates for me in terms of booking work, in terms of working with choreographers and stuff. And there's nothing that I wouldn't do for them. They've kind of offered me so much that, you know, they could ask me to do a show for free. They never would, but if they did, I would be like, you've done so much for me, I would. So they came to me with this proposition of they want to create a fun dance film.
It was so fun to watch.
It was.
Oh my God, it was like a burst of joy.
And it was in the middle of summer, and they were like, here's what we want to do. It just wants to be fun, colorful. We want to just make people smile, give you guys a chance to dance. So they sent us a YouTube link with a video to learn off of, and we showed up the day of. And in this beautiful kind of alleyway filled with color and graffiti and beauty. And we danced, and we had drones flying all over the place, which was super fun.
That's dope.
But it was amazing. It was great to just be in the space with other people, especially people that I really look up to. Like Natasha is one of my dance crushes. Natasha, if you're watching, you're one of my dance crushes, and I've told you many times. Yeah, it was fun to just do something that wasn't contemporary dance. Right. Because while I am a contemporary dancer, that's not only what I do. I think I train in so many different ways that I like having fun. I like doing really, even if it's simple stuff, like just something that I can smile and have fun and joke around in.
Yeah.
So it was great. They were great.
Everything was great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Yeah, when I was watching it, it was just such a so needed, so something that I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to be in the space with you guys. I immediately was like, oh yes, that's that feeling I've been, missing for 7 months in quarantine.
And also it was just like a bunch of really high energy people. Like you had Chris, you had Sam, you had Natasha, you had Julia, and then you had Anissa and Jen, and they're all just like so high energy. Yeah. So it was nice to have that after a substantial amount of months of being in my house. and seeing my parents every day. I love them. I love them.
I know what you mean. That's
Yeah.
kind of why I didn't go home, because I was just like, oh my gosh, my family. But
Yeah, it was definitely a shock for me when I moved back home after living on my own for a very, very long 3 months.
Right.
And having to be like, oh, I have to tell you where I'm going now, and
curfews and chores.
yeah.
It's not fair. I want my adult life back, but a lot of people I think are like moving back into their homes.
It makes sense for some people. For me, I wasn't gonna stay in Montreal for 6 months and pay rent when I didn't need to.
Right. Yeah.
And like as dancers, we already don't make a substantial amount of money, or for the most part. So like being smart with my money and saving that and being like, all right, I can pocket however much I can for now, and then when I have to move back to Montreal, I have to, and I'll deal with it then. So yeah.
Good for you for being smart with your money. You gotta do it.
I think it's one thing that I wish we had, and not that I wish Ryerson taught us, because all the tools are out there for us to learn, but learning financial literacy as a freelance artist is very important. Because you don't have anyone else watching your bank account, really. And you have to be smart. You have to know that even though you want to take class every day, it's probably not the best thing for your bank account.
Yeah.
And also probably not the best thing for you. Like take a break. It's good to take a break.
Being self-employed, being like your own schedule maker. Do you deal with a lot of burnout?
I did actually. Right before I auditioned for the company, I was very lucky that I was working kind of as a full-time freelance dancer.
Yeah, you were saying, right?
But that also meant that I was working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., sometimes later. And I was in maybe like 3 or 4 rehearsals a day. And it was great because I was doing what I loved, and I graduated and I was like, I should be loving this and I should be so happy and grateful. But there was a point where I remember calling my sister and just crying on the phone because I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, I don't want to dance anymore if it's killing me to do what I love. And that's kind of when I knew I had to make a change and had to figure out where I wanted to take my dance career. And I realized, I applied to a bunch of different companies. I had a whole audition tour set up.
Did you? Yeah.
But a part of that, the burnout was on myself, because I gave myself this kind of goal to reach X amount of dollars by the end of this year. And
wow, that's a lot of pressure.
It was.
Yeah.
So while I hit my goal, I was hating myself for it because my body just couldn't do it anymore. And then before my whole audition tour started, I sent my stuff into the company, and I think like on a random Saturday, and the following Monday I got a call from them and they were like, we want you to come in for an audition. And I was like, okay, I'll make it work. And then I went from working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to working 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And it was a big culture shock. I think I found it so bizarre that companies work or this company worked that way. But I loved it. I think it really works, and it doesn't burn out your dancers.
Yeah, it gives them enough time to rest.
Yeah. I think the burnout happens in other ways. The work that the company does is demanding in a variety of ways, but the burnout isn't from working stupidly long days.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's weird because after you graduate a conservatory style program, you're used to that schedule of all day and not seeing the sun. So I think you kind of expect to graduate, and you have this expectation of, okay, well, this is how the real dance world is, and how I should be working. And if I'm not working, this like this, you know, am I really doing it right? Or what do I need to be doing to make it like that? But yeah, made it through. Burnout is real.
Burnout is real.
Yeah.
You're surviving. You're surviving.
Yeah. And I think another part of it was I really fucked up my ankle at the very end of that, right before I burned out.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I was in rehearsal and I just like rolled over it, but kept dancing on it. And it was in rehearsal and I knew I shouldn't have, but I was like, you know what? My ankle pops all the time. It's fine.
Shit, I've been there. Oh, when you just like want to keep going, you're like, I'm going to fight through it. Yeah.
And you're just like limping afterwards and you're like, oh, it's okay. I'll ice it.
I'll just be fine tomorrow. It'll be all better magically.
Yeah. And then 5 months later, you're still icing it and you're like, oh, it's fine. It's good.
No. How is it now? Is it better?
It's great.
Oh,
stronger
good.
than before.
Hey, ankle.
I definitely learned the importance of cross training, and that's a part of why I work so hard to strengthen other parts of my body. Like, I'm not a naturally flexible person, so working on my strength then working on my flexibility is a lot more beneficial to me than working on my flexibility and then getting strength in that. And especially with my feet, like I have terrible feet. Anyone will tell you at our bunny ball, I got the award for best biscuits in the class.
Did you actually get out of here?
I did. But I think I now am very articulate with my feet and I work them in a smart way. Because I know I'm never gonna have daggers.
That's okay. Me too, man. Me too. We are working with the cashews that we have.
Right?
You know?
And cashews need love too.
They do. Cashews need love too. I think that's where we're ending it today.
Biggest takeaway.
Yeah. I did want to ask you if there's anything that you wanted to plug or anything going on in your life right now, personally or anything at all. The mic is yours.
I would plug my Instagram, but I came out from that a very long time ago, and I come back periodically, but never long enough. But if you ever find me on it at Michael Jared B, I'm there. Nice. But for right now, things are just kind of chilling. Feel free to follow Compagnie Marie Chouinard on Instagram to see what we're up to.
Yes.
And yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I'll link that below. And can I add your Facebook maybe even? Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, cool.
I'm at Facebook at Michael Baboolal, Baboolal. You'll see a very nice photo of a gay boy. That's him. It's me. You can add me. You can feel free to ask me any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This was so nice to catch up. I feel like we never really had a chance to like sit down for an hour and chat with each other. We're always kind of seeing each other in the hallway or when you come and take class or something at Ryerson. So
for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for making time. I know you're super busy, so.
No, I love everything that you do with the podcast. So it was such a pleasure to be on it.
That's so sweet. Yay. Okay. Well, I'm going to pause the recording and we'll keep talking. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Versations podcast. If you like what you heard, the best way to help the podcast is to subscribe or follow on your preferred podcast platform and leave a review. As well, follow the podcast on Instagram at artversationspod. You'll find photos of each of my guests so you can match a voice to a face and highlight clips from each episode. Let's keep the conversation going. Send in a DM with your own thoughts about art, as well as any questions you think I should ask my guests. The podcast community continues to grow, and that is all because of you, listener. All bodies are dancer bodies, and all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. Till next time.
My name is Broadway Classic.
Let's hear it.